Well, we know this is obviously a storyline that the auto parts industry is watching very closely, including the auto parts players. Rob Wildeboer is the executive chairman and co-founder of Martinrea International. He joins us in studio. Thanks very much for being here.
Great to be here.
So the finance minister is saying they're monitoring the impact on businesses. What has been the impact on your business?
Well, we've been monitoring the impact every day. We have a couple of plants in China, but we have plants in 9 countries over the world. So I'd say we're monitoring it daily. It's done at the very senior level, CEO level, head of HR, also the plants. It's been pretty good for us so far. Our effect in China, knock on wood, we haven't had a single case of coronavirus, but everyone's monitoring it very closely.
What kind of feedback do you get out of your employees or your teams in China, or even from the government? I mean, are you able to sort of get a sense on how things are evolving there?
Well, in respect of China, I mean, obviously there's been travel restrictions and so forth. It's been, front burner stuff for about 2 months now. A lot of travel restrictions within China, and so we've been monitoring that. The plants are producing. They're producing according to the needs of our customers, so there's some slowdown in China. We reflected that in our quarterly call a little bit. But, at the end of the day, I think the biggest impact in a sense of production is people aren't buying vehicles in China. So we'll see how that works through the system. Obviously, it's a human issue. We take it very seriously. Our employees are the people that we care about and think about every day, so we're monitoring it. But at the end of the day, I got to tell you, very little impact in terms of production outside of China, in North America, Europe, and so forth. But we know it's something that we have to keep our eyes on very closely, and we're doing that.
Very little impact.
Very little impact so far.
What's your reaction to this market sell-off, which it seems like people obviously have a different feeling about it all?
I think you have to take everything seriously. But I'm over 60 years old now, so I've seen a lot of different things. And our company's about 20 years old. Our first day together was September 10, 2001, and then of course the next day was 9/11, and we had major issues. We went through 2008 and 2009 when we had a financial crisis, major issues, stock sell-off, and so forth. We got through that. 2016. We were reporting record results, and Donald Trump came in and said he was going to tear up NAFTA, and it was a bad deal, and we saw a lot of stock price fluctuation. Then we saw tariffs, and now we see this. I think it's something that we'll get through and adjust. I think that the markets are very volatile when these issues come up, but we're obviously we have to focus on our business, taking care of our people, taking care of our customers.
Maybe we can use some historical context. You mentioned
Sure.
the financial crisis. Today we got a jobs report in Canada. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it was for February, and a lot of people are looking this way, not that way.
Yeah.
But we showed this graph of what happened with some of the monthly jobs figures during that financial crisis period. And no surprise, you started to see this deterioration. Actually, we could see it right here, of what was happening with the monthly jobs figures.
Yeah.
What do you think could happen with your business? I mean, just talk about your employees.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to flex. We just finished an acquisition on Monday, so we've gone from 15,000 employees to 17,000 employees.
Wow.
We have a lot of employees. 2008, 2009, that was the biggest financial crisis we've seen, at least since in my lifetime. I wasn't around, obviously, in the 30s. And we adjusted fairly quickly. We went from 7,200 employees to 4,800 employees in a month. I don't think we're at that stage by any stretch, but you do have to flex in those types of situations, and we monitor that, very closely. At the end of the day, we see lots of numbers. We have to be really, political scientists and economists, because we're all over the world in what we do, and in the context of looking at prognostications. I mean, some of the worst case scenarios are we'll have no economic growth in the world this year, which I guess is bad, but it's not that bad.
Fair point. It's a fair point. Well, actually, it leads into, I mean, this week we've talked about central banks. Could be the U.S. Fed, could be what's happening in Australia, could be our central bank here in Canada cutting by 50 basis points. But, you're running a business, so what does a rate cut mean for your business?
Well, the interesting thing is a rate cut, 50 basis points, I mean, probably saves us $3 to $4 million. That's not a bad thing. Obviously, our focus, we bring all these things into focus. It's almost, you have to be a macro politician, economist, and so forth as we look at that, and we have to try and make the right decisions. In the context of production, I think what happens if the economy slows down, people will buy less vehicles. The question is, how much less will they buy than otherwise? And we've got to be in a position to produce parts for those vehicles. But, you know, we're at a pretty healthy level in North America and Europe. I think China's experiencing a slowdown.
So things still looking pretty good for you. Access to capital still pretty good.
We just released results. We had a record year last year. We're looking very good for this year. Our first quarter looks good. It's off a little bit because of the coronavirus and what's happening in China. But, you know, the fundamentals are still pretty solid.
You've got a lot of employees certainly here in Canada that they've got to come to work.
Yeah.
I think it's probably difficult for some of those employees to work from home.
Yeah.
What are you going to be thinking about in the days ahead?
We're monitoring
whether it's mandatory
everything.
or not.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, you know, employee health is right at the top of our focus. We curtail travel to different places unless it's basically CEO approved. So we're taking that extremely seriously. It goes right to the executive suite. There is some travel. I'm going to Brazil on Sunday night because we have some stuff to do for our people there. And at the end of the day, you got to be able to do what your people do. But I'd say that our travel to China has certainly been circumscribed, and we'll monitor that. But health of the people is paramount.
Rob, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Good to get your insight, Rob Wildeboer.
Good to be here.
Executive Chairman and co-founder of Martinrea, the auto parts company.